very long time, but using off-the-books finances and using mechanisms that we're not totally aware exist. And
so listen to what he just said there. He said off-the-books financing and things in agencies that we don't particularly know exist. Alright? So, if you ask me, it sounds like what's going to be happening with this big alien disclosure, Project Bluebeam, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter to me what you call it. To me, this seems like it's going to be a gigantic justification for all the money that we have blown on bullshit in this country, on satellite technology that we don't even have any proof of. There's no pictures of real satellites. You know, all these things, the NASA missions, the fake moon landing, you know, which he even, you know, brings up candidly on his own in this interview, Tom DeLonge does, you know. And what I think is going to happen is, if you go on to watch the rest of this interview, I've watched the whole thing, you know, parts of it I've watched twice, but he pretty much, you know, makes these banker tyrants and these people at the top who have all this high level information that he won't, you know, tell Joe Rogan, and he's being real secretive throughout this whole thing. He idolizes these people, and it's almost that, you know, we're expected to deify this alien race when they come to the light. And it's of my belief, the way that he speaks and everything that he talks about in this interview, I think that they're going to try to make it seem that the alien beings that are amongst us already are the banker tyrants that run this earth, and they're going to make it seem as if the reason they did all this was for our own good, because we couldn't handle it, and because if it wasn't for them, we would have never been able to, you know, get to where we are in this stage of the game. And, you know, we're going to have to praise these people and worship the ground they walk on, and I'm not buying it. So let's listen to what he says for a couple more minutes.
What people have to realize is, you know, the UFO phenomenon isn't a phenomenon. There's the universe is fucking gigantic, and there's life everywhere, every fucking where, and there's a lot of life that's way more advanced than we are. And just like Voyager left our solar system, a little dinky satellite from the 70s, and just like my company's going to be building, you know, this electromagnetic craft that really can do the same thing to time that I've been telling you about. Other civilizations have that too, which means you can traverse those distances of space. And what you have to think about is what happened when we first discovered that, and what did we do about it. And there's no, you know, you got to look at 47 in a very peculiar way. 90 days after the Roswell event, CIA was created, the Air Force was separated from the Army, the National Security Act was created, and all those things are mechanisms to start learning more and to start getting private industry off the ground.
So that had nothing to do with World War II? You think it had to do with aliens?
Oh, I absolutely think it. Well, both, because what I believe crashed at Roswell was, well, I believe it was German from Argentina, but it had hallmarks and technology based on alien technology. So we put out a story saying it's alien, and then we put out a story saying it's a weather balloon. But the real thing it was, we didn't want anyone to guess, and that's why we put those two things out there. And that's kind of how they do it. I think they did that with the moon. It's like, you know, we went to the moon, and then they put out this meme kind of thing, like, we didn't go to the moon, but I didn't want people really going, well, what's on the moon? That, you know, so these things are managed until they can figure it out, because you got a bunch of normal dudes in suits sitting at a big table like this, and it's their fucking responsibility to figure this thing out. And this shit is monumentally big. But back to
how would they manage this then?
How
these regular dudes without access to communication like you have, how have they managed to disseminate this information?
They've managed it terribly. They've managed it by lying to us. They've managed it by putting us all in the same belief system, you know. And I think that's what the globe is. It's a belief system that encapsulates you. And if you listen to Tom throughout this entire video, this interview, he constantly says the things that he believes, but he hasn't seen any of these things. And, I don't know if he's a high level, information, if he has a high level of information, or if he just, is being fed bullshit just like the rest of us at a higher level, so those things are all up for debate. But there's a couple more things I wanted you to hear. He talks about Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, and these other things. Let's see, I think it's right here.
And sort of confuse everybody.
I think, well, I can tell, I don't know how they did it. I do know that they infiltrated UFO groups. That was the very first thing they did in the 50s.
Sort of like how FBI agents and undercover cops infiltrated Occupy Wall Street, pretended to be radical hippies, and started fights.
Yep, they did that. They get access to what the civilians are learning, how information transfers from one group to another, and then they start deflecting all their knowledge and putting in leaks and this and that, and getting them off the main track, not because of a disdain for
Y'all hear that? Does everybody hear that? I mean, clear as day. Somebody who has admitted earlier in this podcast that he is working for high-level intelligence agencies, SCIFs, which are, individual operations carried out through, a multitude of sources. So this guy here, and he even said it himself, it's not because people think it's ridiculous, and that's why he's such a good asset to them, because he has a platform, he has a way to speak, he has a voice that people want to listen to. Just because it's his name, you click on it to see what he's up to. And lo and behold, ever since he's been in Angels and Airwaves, there's a Freemason symbol on his guitar. He has a signature model guitar with the Freemason square and compass on it. You can't make this stuff up, and it's a mockery, people.
And not because of any other reason than picture ISIS. We don't know what ISIS is. They got a nuclear bomb, and we caught a guy trying to sneak in this bomb. Are they going to stop and come sit on your couch and tell you all about it? No. And if you're like on the radio and there's all these people going, oh my God, we're going to die, a bomb, a bomb, a bomb. They'll hold up a second. You're not going to fucking die, but we need to learn more about this, and we got to figure it out before we sit down and talk to you about it.
So what was the connection, though, specifically that you had figured out, that they knew that you had figured out, that other people hadn't put together?
Well, let me go back to my story. So I put out this book, and this book deals with...
what's the book called again?
Secret Machines. And it deals with secret, international finance, private industry, a secret space program, and a bunch of other things.
Here's where he goes into the alien species being the banker tyrants type of, rhetoric that I feel like is being, we're being groomed for this. We're all being groomed for an agenda all the time, and it's always being rolled in. It's always being, slowly leaked out. He just said that a minute ago with the way they, put little pieces of information and leak things and disinfo and everything else. So check out what he says here.
How'd you research this book?
What do you mean?
How'd you get the information?
Oh, it's just 25 years of reading shit and watching videos and studying physics and studying, the secrecy acts and all that kind of weird shit. You put it together, and a lot of it's bad information, but after a long time, I just realized what was going on. I studied enough of international finance, some mechanisms that happened after World War II, what the Nazis were doing technologically that no one really talks about to this day. They were 100 years ahead of us about what their guys did at the end of the war in South America. That's in the paperclip. Paperclip was like, there's two levels of paperclip. Paperclip is the operation that brought over all these ex-Nazis into NASA and into all of our aerospace programs. Why did we do that? Well, because they knew some shit that was very important. And we said there might be a bigger issue out there to deal with, so why don't we side with the devil or side with someone bad because there might be a devil out there. It's that kind of thinking. So they come in...
I thought it was about competing with Russia to try to advance rocketry.
I believe...
Come on, Joe Rogan. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? I mean, Joe Rogan's poker face... You gotta admit, guys, I mean, his poker face is nice. He looked serious as a heart attack when he said that. And he's got to be dying laughing inside. But anyways, listen to what he says about Paperclip and the Nazis and NASA and everything else.
That there was, I believe that there's a reason why the Cold War never got hot. Is because we were working with Russia on this specific issue.
You think the reason why the Cold War never turned into an actual war? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the fact that Russia was a communist empire and essentially we outspent them and they really went under and collapsed.
Yeah, but there's different levels. It's like when someone goes, the U.S. government did this. Well, what do you mean? What does that mean? Does that mean the CIA did it, or the DOD did it, or Homeland Security did it?
That's commercial, damn it. Hold on.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Does that mean the CIA did it, or the DOD did it, or Homeland Security did it? Mm-hmm. You're dealing with it's $1 trillion organization. It's like if somebody in Apple leaks an iPhone, are you going to say, oh my God, Apple's like, well shit, we're a $800 billion company. We have so many things going on worldwide. It's impossible to say the entire organization believes one thing, and the government's the same kind of way. It's just like, that's just a word. The U.S. government's 2 words, right? Three words? How do we want to count this?
Okay. United States government.
Well, it's pretty obvious what they do, people, and I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone this, but they compartmentalize not only the information, but the task and the agendas. I mean, there's multifaceted things that are all working together for a common goal. And when you take a broader look at everything, it's not that they're all towards the same exact agenda, but the same exact agenda is evil things. It's greed. It's to create money. It's to create debt slavery and usury through banks, and conquering nations, and just it's what's been going on and perpetuating for a few thousand years now. So let's listen to these last couple minutes, and I'm gonna end it here.
Three. Okay.
U.S. is.
You got a calculator? Figure this shit out. But and you have many layers of what's going on, and so you have some people worried on technology, some people worrying about what's happening to the civilian population. You have some people worrying about how to keep everything afloat, how to keep everything going, and you have a whole bunch of weird military excursions, and they're bumping into each other, and all these people aren't read in to what's going on with the UFO thing. So as all that shit,
so who gets read in?
That's a good question. If I had to guess, very, very senior technical brass
and rock stars.
And I wasn't read in. Trust me.
No, they didn't tell you anything.
No, they possibly did, but I wasn't read in. I wasn't brought into a skiff, and they said this is what's going on. Even though I've been in a skiff a few times.
Okay.
Do you know what a skiff is?
A boat.
A skiff is a special compartmentalized information facility.
Oh.
It's where top secret shit can be discussed.
Oh, I thought maybe they talk on boats because nobody can hear you.
They do that too.
In the middle of a rowboat.
They do that. They actually do, because you can sweep for bugs on boats a lot easier than you can on a building.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So they tell you what?
Okay, so I'm sitting at that restaurant, and
he says he found a life form. They found a life form during the Cold War.
Right, and I said,
where'd they find it?
Oh, I didn't ask him that question.
Really?
Many places. I did one time bring up, I said, I'm thinking about talking about what...
Alright, people, so the point is that you can see right there, clear as day, and as a matter of fact, it goes deeper than just, rock stars, entertainers, movie people, producers. It's athletes as well. They're paying, our tax dollars go to pay for, it's millions and millions of dollars, just for them to wear army little towels out their butt for the NFL players, and the breast cancer month pays for that, and the breast cancer is not taxes, but our armed forces is paid for by all of our taxes. Our police, the people that are putting the most force on us and lying to us and using us the most, we pay their salary, and it's just crazy that people don't understand it yet. And I just wanted to put this out here to show that even people like the goofy guitar player from Blink-182, when I was a kid growing up, I mean, it was you know, something I used to like to listen to when I was in middle school, and you know, I loved the band.